I should have known the moment he walked into the charity gala that my life was about to shatter. The ballroom at the Bellevue Hotel buzzed with Manhattan's elite women draped in silk and diamonds, men in tailored tuxedos discussing mergers over champagne. I stood near the chess exhibition table I'd organized, adjusting the antique pieces on their velvet boards, trying to ignore how my second-hand dress didn't quite fit the room's opulence. "Miss Reeves, the silent auction is doing wonderfully," Mrs. Castellano gushed, her jewelry catching the chandelier light. "Your idea to include the chess challenge was brilliant. The university fund will exceed expectations tonight." I smiled, tucking a strand of dark hair behind my ear. Chess attracts a certain type of donor, competitive, strategic, people who can't resist proving they're the smartest person in the room. Then you'll have plenty of challengers. She winked before floating away toward a cluster of board members. I'd been teaching chess to underprivileged kids in Brooklyn for 3 years, scraping by on grants and the kindness of donors like Mrs. Castellano. Tonight was supposed to be simple: demonstrate some games, charm wealthy patrons, secure funding for another year. Nothing about tonight would be simple. The air pressure changed when he entered. I felt it before I saw him, a shift in the room's energy. Conversations dropping to whispers, heads turning like compass needles finding true north. When I looked up, my breath caught in my throat. He moved through the crowd with the kind of confidence that didn't need announcement. Tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a black suit that probably cost more than my annual salary. Dark hair swept back from a face that could have been carved from marble, sharp jawline, full lips, eyes so intensely gray they seemed to see through flesh and bone to the truth underneath. But it wasn't his looks that made my pulse spike. It was the way people parted for him, the way men nodded with too much deference, the way women's eyes followed him with equal parts desire and fear. Dangerous. The word whispered through my mind like a warning. "That's Dante Morelli," someone murmured nearby. "The Dante Morelli." My stomach dropped. Even I knew that name. You didn't live in New York without hearing whispers about the Morelli family, old money with even older secrets, connections that stretched from Wall Street to the darkest corners of the city, the kind of power that didn't come from boardrooms alone. He shouldn't be here. Men like him didn't attend university fundraisers unless his gaze locked onto mine across the crowded ballroom. Everything else disappeared. The conversations, the music, the glittering crowd, all of it faded to white noise. Those gray eyes held me captive, intense and assessing, like he was solving an equation and I was the variable that didn't fit. Then he started walking toward me. "No, no, no," I whispered, my hands gripping the edge of the chess table. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but my legs had turned to stone. He stopped 3 feet away, close enough that I caught his scent, expensive cologne layered over something darker, more primal. Up close, he was even more devastating. A small scar cut through his left eyebrow, and there was a hardness in his features that spoke of violence witnessed, possibly committed. "You're the chess teacher." His voice was low, smooth as whiskey, and twice as intoxicating. Yes. I hated how breathless I sounded. "Elena Reeves. Dante." He extended his hand, and I hesitated before taking it. His palm was warm, calloused in unexpected places, his grip firm but not crushing. The contact sent electricity racing up my arm. "I hear you're quite good." "I do all right." I pulled my hand back, wrapping my arms around myself. "Are you interested in the exhibition?" His lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. "I'm interested in a challenge. The exhibition games are friendly demonstrations for donors. I'll donate $100,000 to your program." He said it like someone ordering coffee. "If you play me, a real game." The ballroom seemed to tilt. That's incredibly generous, but I can't." "Why not?" He moved closer, invading my space with deliberate intent. "Afraid you'll lose?" Fire sparked in my chest, burning away the fear. I'd spent my entire life being underestimated, too young, too female, too poor to matter. I recognized the look in his eyes. Wealthy men who thought their money made them superior at everything. "I'm not afraid of losing." I lifted my chin, meeting his gaze directly. "Are you?" Something flickered in those gray eyes, surprise, maybe respect. "No one's beaten me in 12 years. "Then your winning streak ends tonight." The words hung between us, a gauntlet thrown. Around us, I noticed the crowd had gone quiet, watching with the hungry attention of Romans at the Colosseum. Dante's smile widened, genuine this time, and somehow that made him more dangerous. Set up the board. My hands trembled slightly as I arranged the pieces, ebony and ivory, smooth and cool under my fingers. This was insane. I had no idea who this man really was, what he was capable of, why he'd singled me out. But pride and stubbornness had always been my fatal flaws. We sat across from each other, and the world contracted to just the board between us. White or black? I asked. Ladies first. He gestured to the white pieces. I like a challenge. I moved my queen's pawn forward. He responded immediately, his moves confident, aggressive. This wasn't a friendly game, this was warfare in miniature, a battle of wills and intellect. 10 moves in, I realized he was brilliant. 20 moves in, I realized he was trying to intimidate me with aggressive tactics. 30 moves in, I realized I was going to win. His face remained impassive, but I watched the shift in his posture, the slight narrowing of his eyes as my strategy became clear. I'd sacrificed pieces, given ground, made him think I was weak. Then I'd sprung the trap. Check, I said softly, moving my knight. He studied the board. And for the first time I saw genuine surprise flicker across his features. He moved his king, but we both knew it was over. Checkmate. I placed my queen on the final square, and the word felt like firing a gun. Silence. Absolute crushing silence. Dante Morelli stared at the board like it had personally betrayed him. Around us, the crowd held its collective breath. I'd just humiliated one of the most powerful men in New York in front of the city's elite. Slowly, his eyes lifted to mine, and what I saw there made my blood run cold, not anger, but something far more dangerous. Fascination, hunger. Remarkable. He stood, adjusting his cufflinks with deliberate precision. 12 moves. You dismantled my entire strategy in 12 moves. You underestimated me. My voice came out stronger than I felt. People usually do. I won't make that mistake again. He reached into his jacket, withdrew a checkbook, and wrote with swift, decisive strokes. He tore off the check and placed it on the table, $100,000 made out to the Brooklyn Youth Chess Foundation. Consider this the opening move. Opening move of what? He leaned down, his lips close to my ear, his breath warm against my skin. I always finish what I start, Elena, and I never lose twice. Then he straightened, buttoned his jacket, and spoke loud enough for the entire ballroom to hear. Marry me. The world stopped spinning. The ballroom erupted into chaos. Gasps, whispers, the sharp clink of champagne glasses frozen mid-toast. I stood rooted to the spot, my brain struggling to process the words that had just shattered reality. I'm sorry. What? My voice came out strangled. Dante's expression remained maddeningly calm, those gray eyes fixed on me with unwavering intensity. You heard me correctly. You're insane. I grabbed my clutch from the table, knocking over a pawn in my haste. This conversation is over. I turned to leave, but his hand caught my wrist not roughly, but with enough firmness to stop me. The contact sent heat spiraling through my veins, and I hated my body's betrayal. 3 minutes, he said quietly, his thumb pressing against my pulse point. Could he feel how fast my heart was racing? Give me 3 minutes of private conversation. If you still want to leave after that, I won't stop you. Let go of me. 3 minutes. Elena. Something in his voice not quite pleading, but close enough made me hesitate. Around us, the crowd watched with hungry eyes, phones already out, no doubt live streaming my humiliation to social media. Mrs. Castellano looked pale, her hand pressed to her chest. I yanked my wrist free. Fine, 3 minutes, but not here. He gestured toward the exit with one elegant hand. After you. I walked with my spine straight, chin high, refusing to let anyone see how badly I was shaking. Dante fell into step beside me, and I felt the weight of his presence like a physical thing, commanding, protective, dangerous. He guided me through a side door into a private sitting room, all leather furniture and mahogany paneling. The door clicked shut, muffling the ballroom's chaos, and suddenly we were alone. Start talking, I said, crossing my arms, because you just humiliated me in front of everyone I need to maintain professional relationships with. I apologize for the theatrics. He moved to a small bar cart, poured 2 fingers of amber liquid into a crystal tumbler. Bourbon? No. I want an explanation. He took a slow sip, watching me over the rim of the glass. My family has certain expectations. I'm 34, unmarried, and my father is getting impatient about securing the family line. So marry someone else? There were at least 50 women in that ballroom who would kill for the chance. None of them beat me at chess in 12 moves. I laughed, sharp and bitter. That's your criteria? You're choosing a wife based on a chess game? I'm choosing a wife based on intelligence, strategy, and the ability to surprise me. He set down his glass, took a step closer. Do you know how rare that is in my world? Everyone either fears me or wants something from me. You looked at me like I was just another arrogant man who needed to be put in his place. Because that's exactly what you were. Exactly. His smile was genuine, transforming his face from dangerous to devastating. I've spent years surrounded by people who tell me what I want to hear. You told me the truth. You challenged me. You won. So this is what, some kind of prize? I'm supposed to be flattered? No. The smile faded. You're supposed to be smart enough to recognize an opportunity. I stared at him, trying to parse the layers of this insanity. What opportunity? To be trapped in a loveless marriage with a man I don't know? 1 year, he said. And now his voice took on a business-like quality. Marry me for 1 year. Play the role of devoted wife in public. In private, you live your life however you choose, separate rooms, no expectations of intimacy unless you want it. At the end of the year, we divorce quietly. You walk away with $5 million and enough connections to fund your chess program for the next decade. The number hit me like a physical blow. $5 million. That was generational wealth, life-changing money. I could expand the program to every borough, hire full-time staff, provide scholarships. No. The word came out weak, uncertain. Think about it. Dante pressed, moving closer still. 1 year of occasional public appearances. You help me satisfy my father's demands and stop the parade of unsuitable women he keeps throwing at me. I help you build something that actually matters. It's a business arrangement, nothing more. If it's just business, why the public proposal? Why the spectacle? Something flickered across his face. Calculation, maybe guilt. My enemies need to believe it's real. A quiet engagement would raise questions, but a dramatic, public proposal after you humiliated me at chess? That's a story people will believe. It's romantic, unexpected, real. Your enemies. The words tasted like ash. What kind of business are you really in, Dante? He met my eyes, and for the first time, I saw something raw beneath the polished surface. The kind that requires a legitimate face. A respected wife provides that. You're a teacher, a philanthropist. You're clean. Perfect. I'm not a prop for your criminal empire. No. He reached out, tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. The gesture was so gentle it made my breath catch. You're a brilliant woman who deserves better than scraping by on grants and charity. I'm offering you the resources to change thousands of lives. All I'm asking is that you wear a ring and smile for the cameras. My phone, buzzed in my clutch, probably Mrs. Castellano, or worse, my mother, who had somehow already heard about this disaster. The life I'd built was careful, controlled, modest. This man was offering to blow it all apart. I need time to think. You have until tomorrow night. He produced a business card from his pocket, pressed it into my palm. Call this number with your answer. But Elena? His fingers wrapped around mine, warm and possessive. Before you say no, ask yourself this. When was the last time you did something that terrified you? When was the last time you took a real risk? I took a risk tonight, I whispered. I played chess with you, and you won. His thumb traced circles on the back of my hand, sending shivers up my arm. Imagine what you could win in a year. He released me and walked to the door, paused with his hand on the handle. The car waiting outside will take you anywhere you want to go. Tomorrow night, Elena, choose wisely. Then he was gone, leaving me alone, with a business card, a racing heart, and a choice that felt less like opportunity and more like stepping off a cliff into darkness. I looked down at the card. Just a phone number embossed in silver. No name, no title. My phone buzzed again. I pulled it out, saw 17 missed calls, 32 text messages, the top one from Mrs. Castellano read, "Please tell me you're okay. The press is already calling it the proposal of the century." I pressed my forehead against the cool wall and closed my eyes. 3 minutes ago, I'd had a simple life. Now I was standing at a crossroads, and both paths led into territory I couldn't map. But God help me, part of me, the reckless, stubborn part that had accepted his chess challenge, wanted to say yes. I didn't sleep that night. My studio apartment in Brooklyn felt smaller than usual, the walls pressing in as I paced between my kitchenette and the window overlooking the fire escape. The city glittered below, millions of lights representing millions of lives, and somewhere out there, Dante Morelli was probably sleeping peacefully in his mansion, completely unbothered by the bomb he'd dropped into my existence. My phone hadn't stopped buzzing. I'd finally turned it off after the 20th call from reporters who'd somehow gotten my number. The proposal had already gone viral. Number chess proposal was trending on 3 platforms, complete with shaky video footage of the moment he'd asked me to marry him. "Marry me?" I muttered, pouring my 4th cup of coffee at 3 a.m. Like it's that simple. I'd spent hours researching Dante Morelli online. The official story was impressive. Harvard MBA, CEO of Morelli Enterprises, philanthropist, art collector. But between the lines, in the Reddit threads and anonymous blog posts, the truth emerged like a body floating to the surface. The Morelli family controlled half of New York's underground economy. Protection rackets, high-stakes gambling, political influence. Nothing ever stuck in. Court witnesses disappeared or recanted. Evidence vanished. Prosecutors suddenly retired. Dante was the current head of operations, taking over after his father's retirement 5 years ago. And I was considering marrying him for money. "You've lost your mind," I told my reflection in the window. But even as I said it, I was thinking about the chess program, about Sophia with her brilliant tactical mind trapped in a system that would probably fail her, about Marcus who needed glasses but whose mother couldn't afford them, about the dozens of kids who saw me as their only chance at something better. $5 million would change everything, but at what cost? I picked up Dante's business card from where I'd left it on my tiny kitchen counter. The silver numbers seemed to glow in the pre-dawn light. Tomorrow night. I had until tomorrow night to make a choice that would alter the trajectory of my entire life. My doorbell rang at exactly 6 a.m. I peered through the peephole, saw a man in a black suit holding a large box. Not Dante, someone broader, older, with the kind of face that had seen things and stopped being surprised by them. "Miss Reeves?" His voice was gravelly through the door. "Delivery from Mr. Morelli." I opened the door a crack, keeping the chain lock engaged. "I didn't order anything. He thought you might need help making your decision." The man set the box down in the hallway. "Have a good day, ma'am." He walked away before I could respond. I waited until the stairwell door closed behind him, then dragged the box inside. It was surprisingly heavy, wrapped in matte black paper with my name written in elegant calligraphy across the top. Inside, I found a file folder resting on top of tissue paper. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside were detailed financial projections for the Brooklyn Youth Chess Foundation building acquisitions, staff salaries, scholarship funds, tournament travel budgets. Everything I'd ever dreamed of, laid out in concrete. Numbers with a timeline spanning 10 years. Beneath the projections was a single note in bold, masculine handwriting. "This is what 1 year buys. Imagine what you could do with a decade." I sank onto my second-hand couch, the file trembling in my grip. He'd done his homework. These weren't generic projections. He'd researched specific buildings, calculated actual costs, identified potential expansion opportunities. I'd only fantasized about late at night when the grant applications were rejected and the bills piled up. Underneath the folder, wrapped in tissue paper, was a dress. Not just any dress, a masterpiece of deep emerald silk that probably cost more than 3 months of my rent. A note pinned to the hanger read, "For dinner tomorrow night, 8 p.m. The address is on the back. Come hear my offer in detail, then decide. No pressure, no cameras, just 2 people having a conversation. No pressure. Right. Just a conversation with a Mafia boss about becoming his fake wife. I should have thrown it all away. Should have called the police, or at least called someone who could talk sense into me. Instead, I held the dress up to my body, caught my reflection in the bathroom mirror, and barely recognized the woman staring back. She looked hungry, reckless, alive. The rest of the day passed in a blur. I taught my afternoon chess class on autopilot, barely registering my students' chatter. Sophia won her practice game in 18 moves, her dark eyes sparkling with pride. "Miss Reeves? Are you okay?" she asked afterward, her 12-year-old face creased with concern. "You seem distracted." "Just tired, sweetheart." I squeezed her shoulder. "Rough night. My abuela says you're famous now." Sophia pulled out her phone, a cracked screen held together with tape, and showed me the viral video. "She says that man must really love you to propose like that." Love. The word felt foreign, sharp-edged. What Dante was offering wasn't love. It was a transaction. Cold and calculated. But maybe that was better. Cleaner. Love made people stupid, made them compromise themselves. This was just business. I went home, showered, and stared at the emerald dress for a full hour before finally putting it on. It fit perfectly, hugging my curves like it had been designed specifically for my body. Probably had been. I applied minimal makeup, twisted my hair into a simple knot, and looked in the mirror one final time. The woman looking back was a stranger, elegant, sophisticated, dangerous. At 7:45, a black car pulled up outside my building. The same man from the morning stood beside it, holding the door open. I took a deep breath, grabbed my clutch, and stepped outside. "Miss Reeves," he nodded respectfully. "I'm Vincent. I'll be driving you tonight." "Where are we going?" "Mr. Morelli's private residence." He helped me into the backseat leather so soft it felt like butter. "He's looking forward to seeing you." As we pulled into traffic, heading toward the gleaming towers of Manhattan's Upper East Side, I realized I'd already made my choice. The moment I'd put on this dress, stepped into this car, I'd crossed a line. Tomorrow, I'd either wake up as Elena Reeves, struggling chess teacher, or as something else entirely. I just wasn't sure which version terrified me more. Dante's penthouse occupied the entire top floor of a building that made my studio apartment look like a broom closet. Vincent led me through a private elevator that required a keycard and retinal scan, security measures that made my stomach clench with anxiety. The doors opened directly into a foyer with marble floors and a chandelier that probably cost more than my college education. But it was the wall of windows beyond that stole my breath, floor-to-ceiling glass overlooking the Manhattan skyline. The city spread out like a kingdom of light and shadow. "Miss Reeves." Dante emerged from a doorway to the left, and I had to remind myself to breathe. He'd traded his tuxedo for dark slacks and a white dress shirt, sleeves rolled to his elbows, revealing forearms corded with muscle and marked by a few scattered scars. His hair was slightly disheveled, like he'd been running his hands through it, and the casual look made him somehow more dangerous than the polished version I'd met last night. "Elena," I corrected, my voice steadier than I felt. "If we're going to discuss a fake marriage, we should probably use first names." His lips curved. "Elena, you look stunning. Your dress." I smoothed my hands over the silk, needing something to do with them. "It fits perfectly. I'm good at reading measurements." He crossed the space between us, stopped just close enough that I caught his scent again. Sandalwood and something darker, more complex. "Bourbon? Wine? I can have Vincent bring anything you prefer." "Water is fine." "Nervous?" "Terrified," I admitted. "I'm having dinner with a man who may or may not have people killed for a living." Something flickered in his eyes surprise at my bluntness. Maybe respect. "I've never killed anyone who didn't deserve it." The words hung between us. Confirmation and confession rolled into one. My throat went dry. That was supposed to be comforting? It was supposed to be honest. He gestured toward the dining room. "Come, let's eat, talk, and you can decide if I'm the monster you're imagining, or just a man trying to navigate an impossible situation." The dining room was intimate, a table set for two beside another wall of windows, candles casting warm light across crystal and china. A private chef brought course after course of food I barely tasted, my attention fixed on the man across from me. "Tell me about your family," Dante said, cutting into his steak with surgical precision. "The file I have is incomplete." "You have a file on me?" "Of course. No apology, just fact. But files don't tell the whole story. I know you grew up in Queens, graduated top of your class at Columbia on scholarship, that your father died when you were 16, and your mother works as a paralegal. What I don't know is why chess." I took a sip of the wine I'd eventually accepted, red, expensive, warming me from the inside. "My father taught me. He was a postal worker, but chess was his passion. We'd play every night after dinner. When he died, the board was the only place I could still feel close to him." "I'm sorry for your loss. It was a long time ago." I met his eyes. "Your turn. Why does the head of a crime family need a fake wife?" "Because the real business world and the shadow world aren't as separate as people think." He leaned back, swirling his wine. "I need legitimacy. Political connections, social standing, respectability. A wife provides that, especially one who's accomplished, intelligent, and has no prior connections to my world. And at the end of the year, when we divorce, you walk away wealthy, connected, and completely free. I'll have satisfied my father's demands and bought myself time to find a more permanent solution. Why not just find someone you actually love?" The question hung between us, too intimate for a business dinner. Dante's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "Love is a liability in my world," he said finally. It's leverage. A weakness. Everyone I've ever cared about has become a target. A marriage of convenience protects us both, no real emotional attachment, no vulnerability. That sounds lonely. It's practical. He set down his glass with a soft click. Elena, I'm not offering you a fairy tale. I'm offering you a year of your life in exchange for the resources to change thousands of others. You're a brilliant woman. You understand cost-benefit analysis. What about the physical side? The wine made me brave. You said no expectations of intimacy unless I want it. What does that mean? Heat flared in his eyes, quick and intense. It means exactly what I said. We'll maintain the appearance of a real marriage in public, attending events together, living in the same residence, presenting a united front. In private, your bedroom has a lock and I respect boundaries. If something develops between us naturally, we're both adults. If it doesn't, that's fine too. And when the press asks about children? When your father asks? I'll handle my father. As for the press, we'll tell them we're focused on our careers, that we want time to enjoy married life first. It's a common enough story. I pushed food around my plate, my mind racing through scenarios and consequences. I need guarantees, legal protections, a contract that specifies exactly what's expected, already drafted. He pulled a folder from beneath the table, had it been there all along, and slid it across to me. Read it. Have a lawyer review it. Everything we discussed is outlined in detail, including financial terms, public appearance requirements, and exit clauses. I opened the folder, skimmed pages of dense legal language. It was all there: the $5 million payment, the separate bedrooms, the 1-year term, even a clause about what happened if either party violated the agreement. There's a clause about infidelity, I noted. For both of us, if either party pursues romantic or sexual relationships outside the marriage, the contract is void, and the offending party forfeits their compensation. I need this to look real, Elena. That means discretion and commitment, at least publicly. 1 year, I said slowly. 12 months of pretending to be in love with you. Then we walk away and never see each other again. Exactly. I closed the folder, looked out at the glittering city. Somewhere down there, Sophia was probably doing homework at her kitchen table, dreaming of chess tournaments she'd never attend because her family couldn't afford the travel. Marcus was squinting at his textbooks, getting headaches because he needed glasses. Dozens of kids were trapped in systems that would fail them. 1 year of my life could save theirs. I need 2 additions to the contract, I said finally. Dante leaned forward, his full attention locked on me. Name them. First, I want the Brooklyn Youth Chess Foundation funded immediately, not at the end of the year. If something happens and this arrangement falls apart, those kids still deserve their chance. Agreed. And second, I met his eyes, saw my reflection in those gray depths, small, determined, terrified. If at any point during this year I feel unsafe, if I want out for any reason, I can leave. No questions, no penalties. You let me go. Something complex moved across his face: surprise, calculation, and maybe something softer. You'd give up $5 million? My life is worth more than money. The silence stretched between us, weighted with implications and unspoken truths. Then Dante stood, walked around the table, and extended his hand. You have a deal, Elena Reeves. Those terms are acceptable. I stared at his hand, strong, scarred, capable of both violence and tenderness. This was it. The moment I could still walk away, return to my simple life, my safe existence. Instead, I stood and placed my hand in his. Then I accept, I whispered. I'll marry you. His fingers closed around mine, warm and possessive, and I felt the trap spring shut around us both. Tomorrow, Dante said, his voice low and intimate. We'll announce the engagement officially. Are you ready for your life to change? I wasn't, but I nodded anyway, and sold my soul to the devil in Armani. The engagement announcement hit the media like a hurricane. By noon the next day, my face was on every gossip site and news outlet in the city. Brooklyn chess teacher captures Mafia king's heart, screamed one headline. From checkmate to soulmate, the proposal that broke the internet, declared another. My phone had been ringing nonstop until I finally turned it off, unable to handle another reporter asking for exclusive interviews or distant relatives suddenly wanting to reconnect. I stood in my apartment, surrounded by half-packed boxes, watching a news segment about my engagement on mute. The Elena on screen looked radiant, courtesy of a photo Dante had somehow arranged from last night. I barely recognized her. A knock at my door made me jump. "It's Vincent, Miss Reeves. Mr. Morelli sent me to help with your move." Move, right, because I was supposed to relocate to Dante's penthouse today, begin the charade of living as his devoted fiancé. I opened the door to find Vincent with 3 other men in black suits, all looking professionally blank. "I don't have that much stuff," I protested weakly. "Mr. Morelli was very specific about making you comfortable." Vincent's tone was respectful but firm. "We're here to help transport everything you want to keep. The rest can be stored or donated as you prefer." 2 hours later, my entire life was packed into boxes and loaded into unmarked vehicles. I took one last look at the studio that had been my brief sanctuary for 3 years, memorizing the water stain on the ceiling, the slightly crooked window frame, the scratch marks where I'd moved furniture during my first week. This small space had been mine, truly mine. Whatever came next would be borrowed, temporary, an illusion. The penthouse felt even more massive in daylight. Vincent's team efficiently distributed my boxes to a bedroom that was easily 3 times the size of my entire apartment. The closet alone was bigger than my old kitchen. Miss Reeves. A woman in her 50s appeared in the doorway, her gray hair pulled into an elegant bun. "I'm Margaret, Mr. Morelli's housekeeper. I've prepared the guest suite for you. If you need anything arranged differently, please don't hesitate to ask. It's perfect. Thank you." She smiled warmly. "Mr. Morelli has been in meetings all morning but asked that you join him in his study when you're settled. Down the hall, last door on the right." I found Dante behind a massive desk, surrounded by screens displaying financial data and security camera feeds. He looked up as I entered, and something in his expression softened. "How was the move?" "Surreal." I sank into a leather chair across from him. "I keep waiting to wake up and find this was all a bizarre dream. If it helps, I feel the same way." He closed his laptop, giving me his full attention. "We need to discuss the next few weeks. The engagement party is Saturday, 300 guests, full media coverage. My family will be there." My stomach dropped. "Your family? As in your father?" "Salvatore Morelli, yes. Along with my mother Lucia, my sister Carmela, and various cousins, uncles, and business associates." He must have seen the panic in my face because he stood, came around the desk, and leaned against it in front of me. "Elena, look at me." I lifted my chin, met those penetrating gray eyes. "You already beat me at chess in front of Manhattan's elite. You can handle one dinner party. Chess has rules. Your world doesn't. My world has more rules than you think. You just have to learn them." He reached out, tucked a strand of hair behind my ear, a gesture that was becoming dangerously familiar. "Rule 1. Never show fear. They'll smell it like sharks smell blood." Not helping. "Rule 2. You're mine now, in their eyes. That makes you untouchable. No one will risk offending me by disrespecting you." The possessiveness in his voice sent shivers down my spine. "And Rule 3? Trust me." His hand cupped my jaw, thumb brushing across my cheekbone. "I know this is terrifying. I know you're out of your depth, but I will not let anyone hurt you. That's a promise." The intensity in his gaze made my breath catch. For a moment, the calculation dropped away and I saw something raw underneath protectiveness, maybe even genuine concern. Then his phone buzzed, shattering the moment. He pulled away, checked the screen, and his expression hardened. "I need to handle something. Vincent will take you shopping this afternoon. We need to build your wardrobe for upcoming events. Spare no expense. Charge everything to my account." "I don't need Elena." His voice took on that commanding edge. "You're about to become one of the most photographed women in New York. Every outfit will be analyzed, criticized, and copied. This isn't vanity. It's armor. Let me provide it." He left before I could argue, and I was alone in a penthouse that felt more like a gilded cage by the minute. The shopping trip was overwhelming. Vincent drove me to boutiques where salespeople knew Dante by name and treated me like visiting royalty. I tried on dresses that cost more than my monthly rent, shoes that were works of art, jewelry that probably required insurance policies. By the time we returned to the penthouse, I had enough new clothes to outfit a small army. "This is insane," I told Margaret as she helped me organize everything in the massive closet. "Mr. Morelli is very generous, with those he cares about," she said diplomatically. "He doesn't care about me. This is a business arrangement." Margaret gave me a look that was far too knowing. "If you say so, dear." That evening, Dante insisted we have dinner together, practice for the public appearances ahead. We sat at the intimate dining table where we'd negotiated my future, and he quizzed me on his family members, their roles, their personalities, what topics to avoid. Carmela will try to provoke you, he warned. She's protective and suspicious of anyone new in my life. Don't take the bait. What should I do? Win her over the same way you won me over. His lips curved. Be yourself. Be brilliant. Show her you're not intimidated. Fake it till I make it? Exactly. We fell into an easy rhythm, him asking questions about my life, me learning about his. I discovered he played piano, preferred scotch to wine, and had a scar on his ribs from a knife fight when he was 19. He learned I was terrible at cooking, had a weakness for terrible reality TV, and had once been offered a chess scholarship to an elite academy, but turned it down to stay close to my mother after my father died. You sacrificed your dreams for family, he observed. Some things are more important than dreams. That kind of loyalty is rare. Something shifted in his expression. Became more guarded. Don't waste it on people who don't deserve it. Like you? The question hung between us, sharp-edged and dangerous. Dante's jaw tightened. Like me, he agreed quietly. I'm not a good man, Elena. Don't make the mistake of thinking otherwise. Then why do you care about keeping me safe? Because you're my responsibility now. I protect what's mine. The possessiveness should have irritated me. Instead, it sent heat pooling low in my belly. A reaction I absolutely could not afford to have. I should go to bed. I stood abruptly. Big day tomorrow. Apparently I have a dress fitting and media training. Elena, his voice stopped me at the doorway. Thank you. For what? For trusting me with this. I know how much you're risking. I looked back at him, silhouetted against the city lights. Powerful and lonely and more complicated than any chess puzzle I'd ever solved. Just keep your promises, I said softly. That's all I ask. I left him there in the darkness, and tried not to think about how natural it had felt to sit across from him, trading stories like we were building something real instead of constructing an elaborate lie. The trap had sprung, but I was starting to wonder who had caught whom. The engagement party was held at the Morelli estate in the Hamptons, a sprawling mansion that made Dante's penthouse look modest. I'd spent 3 days preparing, wardrobe fittings, media coaching, memorizing faces, and names from photographs Dante spread across his dining table like battle plans. Now I stood in front of a full-length mirror, barely recognizing myself. The dress was a masterpiece, of champagne, silk, and delicate beading, elegant without being ostentatious. My dark hair had been swept into an intricate updo, and the makeup artist had somehow made my features look both softer and more striking. Around my neck hung a diamond necklace that probably cost more than my mother's house. You're ready, Margaret said, adjusting a final pin. You look absolutely stunning, dear. I look like I'm playing dress-up in someone else's life. Then play the part beautifully. She squeezed my shoulder. Mr. Morelli is waiting downstairs. I found him in the foyer, dressed in a black tuxedo that emphasized his broad shoulders and lean frame. When he turned and saw me, something flared in his eyes, raw, hungry, quickly masked. Elena. His voice was rougher than usual. You're breathtaking. You clean up pretty well yourself. He closed the distance between us, pulled a small velvet box from his pocket. I should have given you this before tonight. My apologies. Inside was a ring that stopped my heart, a flawless emerald surrounded by diamonds, set in platinum. It was elegant, unusual, and somehow perfect for me. It was my grandmother's, Dante said quietly, taking my hand. She was the only member of my family who believed love was stronger than power. I thought she'd approve of you. He slid the ring onto my finger, and the weight of it felt significant, permanent. This was real now, not just a contract in a folder, but a tangible symbol that the world would see and believe. It's beautiful, I whispered. It suits you. His thumb stroked across my knuckles, a gesture that was becoming dangerously familiar. Are you ready? Once we walk out there, there's no going back. Are you trying to give me an exit? I'm reminding you that you always have one. I looked down at the ring, catching the light. Thought about the life waiting beyond these doors, the performance, the danger, the strange man who'd somehow convinced me to trust him. Let's do this, I said, and tucked my hand into the crook of his arm. The party was already in full swing when we arrived. The Morelli Estate's ballroom glittered with chandeliers and filled with people who looked like they'd stepped off the pages of a fashion magazine. Waiters circulated with champagne and hors d'oeuvres, a string quartet played in the corner, and everywhere I looked, I saw eyes assessing, calculating, judging. "Remember," Dante murmured against my ear, "you're the woman who beat me at chess. You belong here." Then we stepped into the crowd, and the performance began. Dante introduced me to a blur of faces: business associates, family members, politicians I recognized from news coverage. I smiled, shook hands, and tried to project confidence I didn't feel. Several women looked at me with undisguised envy or suspicion. Several men looked at me with something far more predatory until Dante's arm tightened around my waist. A clear warning that went unspoken but understood. "Dante." A woman's voice cut through the chatter, cool and assessing. "Introduce me to your surprise fiancé." I turned to face a striking woman in her early 30s, with the same gray eyes as Dante but sharper, more calculating. She wore a blood-red dress and an expression that could freeze lava. "Carmela." Dante's tone was carefully neutral. "This is Elena Reeves." "Elena, my sister Carmela, the chess teacher." Carmela's smile didn't reach her eyes. "How? Quaint. Tell me, Elena, what exactly is your game?" "I don't play games," I said evenly. "Your brother proposed. I accepted. That's the whole story." "Is it?" She circled me slowly, predatory. "Because from where I stand, you're a nobody from Brooklyn, who somehow convinced the head of our family to put a ring on your finger in less than a week. That doesn't sound like love. That sounds like an angle." "Carmela?" Dante's voice dropped to a dangerous register. "That's enough. Is it? Because I'm trying to protect you from making the biggest mistake of your life. We don't know anything about her, her background, her motives, her loyalties." Fire sparked in my chest, burning away the fear. I'd faced down worse than hostile family members. I'd survived grief, poverty, and the casual cruelty of people who thought my dreams were too big for someone like me. "You want to know my angle?" I stepped closer to Carmela, refusing to be intimidated. "I'm a chess teacher who makes $37,000 a year. I lived in a studio apartment with plumbing that breaks twice a month. Your brother could have chosen any woman in this room, probably any woman in this city. But he chose me. Maybe instead of assuming I'm running a con, you should ask yourself why he'd pick someone so completely outside your world." Carmela's eyes narrowed. "Why?" "Because I'm real." I held her gaze. "Because when I agreed to marry him, it wasn't about his money or his power or his last name. And because I beat him at chess in 12 moves, which means I'm smart enough not to underestimate anyone, including you." Silence stretched between us, taut and dangerous. Then impossibly, Carmela smiled, genuine this time. "I like you." She glanced at Dante. "She's got spine. Maybe you're not as stupid as I thought." "High praise," Dante said dryly. Carmela turned to leave, then paused. "Hurt him, though, and you'll discover exactly what this family is capable of. Welcome to the Morellis, Elena." She walked away, and I released a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. "That went better than expected," Dante murmured. "Better?" "She threatened to destroy me." "She respects you. That's all that matters." His hand found the small of my back, warm and steadying. "Come. It's time to meet my father." If Carmela was a test, Salvatore Morelli was the final exam. He held court in a private study off the main ballroom, surrounded by men who looked like they'd stepped out of a Scorsese film. When we entered, conversations died, and every eye fixed on me with predatory interest. Salvatore sat behind a massive desk, older than Dante but with the same commanding presence. His hair was silver, his face lined, but his eyes were sharp as broken glass. "So," he said, voice gravelly with age and authority, "this is the girl who thinks she can handle my son. With respect, Mr. Morelli, I don't think I can handle anyone." I met his gaze directly, remembering Dante's first rule, never show fear. "But I'm willing to try." Something flickered in Salvatore's expression. Surprise, maybe approval. He gestured for us to sit. "Dante tells me you're a teacher." "Chess." "Yes, sir. I run a program for underprivileged kids in Brooklyn." "Noble." He leaned back, fingers steepled. "But nobility doesn't survive in our world. You understand what you're marrying into?" "I'm beginning to." "Beginning," he barked a laugh. "Honest, at least. Dante, leave us. I want to speak with your fiancé alone." Every muscle in Dante's body tensed. "Father, alone. Now." Dante's jaw tightened, but he stood. Before leaving, he leaned down, pressed his lips to my temple, a gesture that felt surprisingly natural. "You've got this," he whispered, then walked out, closing the door behind him. I was alone with the most dangerous man in New York. "You're afraid," Salvatore observed. "But you're not running." "That's interesting." "Running wouldn't help. Your people would find me." "Smart girl." He poured 2 glasses of amber liquid, slid one across the desk. "Tell me the truth. Do you love my son?" The question hit like a physical blow. I could lie, spin the story we'd prepared, but something in Salvatore's eyes told me he'd see through any deception. "No," I said quietly. "Not yet." "Yet." He smiled, genuinely pleased. "At least you're honest. Most women would swear eternal devotion to get access to our family. You admit you're still figuring it out. That takes courage. Or stupidity. Sometimes they're the same thing." He took a sip of his drink. "I'll be watching you, Elena. My son is the future of this family. If you're using him, if you betray him, there's nowhere in this world you could hide. Do you understand?" "Yes, sir." "Good." He stood, walked around the desk. "But if you're genuine, if you can stand beside him in the darkness and not flinch, then you'll have my protection. And that's worth more than all the money and power in this city." He extended his hand. I stood, shook it, felt the iron strength in his grip. "Welcome to the family, Elena. Don't make me regret this." When I walked out of that study, Dante was waiting in the hallway, tension radiating from every line of his body. What did he say? He threatened me, tested me, and gave me his blessing, I think. Dante pulled me into his arms, held me tight against his chest. I could feel his heart racing, smell the cologne mixed with champagne and fear. "You survived," he murmured into my hair. "God, Elena, you survived. Did you doubt I would?" "I doubted I had the right to ask you to." We stood there in the hallway, wrapped in each other, and for just a moment the performance felt dangerously real. Inside the ballroom, someone called for a toast. Dante pulled back, offered his arm. "Ready for the next act?" I took his arm, lifted my chin, and walked back into the lion's den wearing his grandmother's ring and a smile that was only half pretend. The trap had closed completely now, but standing beside Dante Morelli, facing down his dangerous family, I felt something unexpected blooming in my chest. Not love, not yet, but the dangerous possibility of it. 3 weeks into our engagement, I woke to the sound of gunfire. I bolted upright in bed, heart hammering, mind struggling to separate dream from reality. Another shot echoed through the penthouse, followed by shouting men's voices, urgent and violent. I grabbed my phone from the nightstand, hands shaking so badly I nearly dropped it. The screen showed 3:47 a.m. I should call 911. I should hide. My bedroom door burst open. Dante stood in the doorway, shirtless, a gun in his hand. Blood spattered across his chest and face. His eyes were wild, feral, nothing like the controlled man I'd been living with. "Get dressed. Now." His voice was pure command. "We're leaving." "What's happening? Are you hurt? Is that your blood, Elena?" He crossed the room in 3 strides, grabbed my shoulders. "I need you to trust me and move. Pack nothing. We go now." The urgency in his voice broke through my paralysis. I threw on jeans and a sweater, shoved my feet into sneakers. Dante kept his body between me and the door, gun raised, listening for sounds I couldn't identify. "Stay behind me," he ordered. "Do exactly what I say, when I say it. Understand?" I nodded, throat too tight for words. He led me through the penthouse, avoiding the main hallway. We took a service corridor I hadn't known existed, past rooms I'd never entered. Behind us, I heard crashing, more shouting, the distinctive pop of gunfire. "Dante, please, tell me what's..." "Rivals. The Volkov family." His jaw was granite. "They hit one of our warehouses tonight, killed 3 of my men. This is retaliation, they're coming for me." We reached what looked like a wall panel. Dante pressed something, and it swung open to reveal a hidden stairwell, narrow and dark. Down, fast. I practically flew down the stairs, Dante right behind me. The stairwell led to an underground garage I'd never seen, where Vincent waited beside a nondescript black SUV, also armed, also covered in blood. "All clear?" Dante demanded. "For now. But they'll realize we're gone soon. We need to move." Dante shoved me into the back seat, climbed in beside me. Vincent peeled out of the garage like he was driving in an action movie, tires squealing, engine roaring. "Where are we going?" My voice shook. "Safe house in New Jersey." Dante was texting rapidly, his face illuminated by the phone's glow. "Carmela and my father are already secure. You're the priority now." "Why me?" He looked up, and the rawness in his eyes stole my breath. "Because hurting you hurts me, and that makes you the perfect target." The words hung between us. Confession and curse rolled into one. This was what I'd signed up for, I realized with crystalline clarity. This was the real cost of wearing his ring. Not fancy dresses and charity galas, but blood and violence and the constant threat of death. We drove in silence, Manhattan's lights fading behind us. Dante made call after call, his voice cold and commanding, orchestrating responses I couldn't fully understand. Beside me, he was transformed. This wasn't the man who'd made me laugh over dinner or played piano late at night when he thought I was asleep. This was the Mafia boss, ruthless and calculating. The safe house was a fortress disguised as a suburban home, reinforced walls, armed guards, security systems that probably cost more than most houses. Vincent ushered us inside, then disappeared to handle the perimeter. Dante locked the door behind us, finally lowered his gun. "You should clean up," I said quietly. "You're covered in blood." He looked down at himself like he'd forgotten. "It's not mine. Mostly." "Mostly?" He turned, and I saw a gash across his ribs, still bleeding. My stomach lurched. "That needs stitches." "I've had worse." But he swayed slightly, adrenaline clearly wearing off. Training took over. I'd volunteered as a medical assistant one summer in college. I grabbed his arm, guided him to the bathroom, pushed him down onto the closed toilet seat. "First aid kit?" "Under the sink." I found it far more comprehensive than anything a normal house would have, complete with surgical supplies. My hands were steadier now, focused on the concrete task of keeping this infuriating man from bleeding to death. "This is going to hurt," I warned. "It already hurts." I cleaned the wound with antiseptic, trying to ignore how Dante's muscles tensed under my touch, how close we were in the small bathroom, how his breath caught when I pressed gauze against his ribs. "You need actual stitches," I said. "I can't. You can." His hand covered mine, warm and bloody. "I'll walk you through it. It's not the first time." So I stitched him up, my hands shaking but steady enough, while he talked me through each step in that low, commanding voice. When I finished, we both sat in silence, my fingers still pressed against his bandaged ribs, his hand still covering mine. "I'm sorry," Dante said finally. "You shouldn't have seen that. Shouldn't have been put in danger. This is your life. Your real life." "Yes. When does it stop? The violence, the retaliation, the blood?" His laugh was bitter. "It doesn't. This is what I am, Elena. This is what I'll always be." I pulled my hand away, stood, and looked at him, really looked at him. Past the expensive clothes and controlled charm to the man underneath. The one scarred by violence and resigned to more of it. "I read the contract," I said quietly. "The exit clause. I could leave right now, walk away from all this." Something flickered in his eyes, fear, maybe hope. "You could. I'd understand. But those kids in Brooklyn, they'd lose their funding. The program would collapse. I'd still fund it, regardless of what you choose." That surprised me. "Why?" "Because, you're right, they deserve their chance. And because," he stood, closed the distance between us, "because I don't want you staying out of obligation. If you stay, I need it to be a choice." We stood inches apart, the air between us charged with unspoken truths. This was the moment everything could change, the moment the performance could become something real, or the moment I could run and never look back. "I'm terrified," I admitted. "Of you, of this life, of what I'm becoming by staying." "What are you becoming?" "Someone who can stitch up bullet wounds at 4 in the May, morning without falling apart. Someone who's getting used to armed guards and safe houses. Someone who—" I stopped, the words too dangerous to speak aloud. "Someone who what?" His hand cupped my jaw, tilting my face up to his. "Someone who's starting to care whether you live or die." The confession hung between us, raw and honest. Dante's thumb traced my lower lip, his eyes searching mine with an intensity that made me feel stripped bare. "Elena. My name was a prayer and a curse. You should run from me. You should take the out I'm offering and never look back." "I know. But you won't." "No." The word was barely a whisper. "I won't." He closed the remaining distance, his forehead pressing against mine, our breath mingling in the small space between us. "Then God help us both," he murmured. Because I'm falling for you, and that makes us both targets. I thought love was a liability in your world. It is. His hand slid into my hair, fingers tangling in the strands. But I'm starting to think you're worth the risk. The kiss, when it came, was inevitable, a collision of fear and desire, and 3 weeks of carefully maintained distance finally shattering. His lips were soft but demanding, tasting of copper and smoke and something darker. I kissed him back with equal desperation, my hands fisting in his hair, pulling him closer even as a voice in my head screamed that this was exactly what I'd promised myself I wouldn't do. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, the careful walls we'd constructed lay in ruins around us. This complicates things, I said. Everything about you complicates things. His smile was crooked, genuine, but I'm starting to think complicated is better than empty. Dawn was breaking outside the bathroom window, painting the sky in shades of blood and gold. Somewhere in the city, men were hunting us. Enemies were plotting. The violence would continue, inevitable as sunrise. But standing in that safe house bathroom, still, tasting Dante Morelli on my lips, I made a choice that had nothing to do with contracts or money or chess programs. I chose to stay. Not for a year, not for a performance. I chose him. And that, I knew with terrible certainty, changed everything. For 3 days, we stayed in the safe house while Dante orchestrated his response to the Volkov attack. I watched him transform. The man who'd kissed me in the bathroom disappeared, replaced by something harder, colder, absolutely ruthless. He worked from a makeshift command center in the basement, surrounded by screens and maps and men who spoke in coded language. I heard fragments of conversations through the walls, discussions of shipments and territories, of retribution and consequences. Vincent came and went, always carrying folders, always wearing an expression that suggested the news was bad. Dante barely slept. When he did collapse on the couch in the main room, his hand always found his gun first, his body coiled with tension even, in rest. I'd bring him food he didn't eat, coffee he'd drain without tasting, and watch him spiral deeper into the darkness of his world. On the 4th morning, I found him standing at the window, staring out at the suburban street that hid so much violence. "It's over," he said without turning. "The Volkovs have been handled." Handled. The euphemism tasted like ash. What does that mean? It means they won't be a problem anymore. Did you kill them? The question came out sharper than intended. He turned then, and the look in his eyes made my blood run cold. Do you really want the answer to that? I don't know. I wrapped my arms around myself. I don't know what I want anymore. You want the fairy tale. His laugh was bitter. The reformed criminal who walks away from his empire for love. But that's not who I am, Elena. I told you I'm not a good man. Stop saying that like it absolves you of trying to be better. Better? He crossed the room, backing me against the wall. Not threatening, but intense, desperate. There is no better in my world. There's power, or there's death. There's control, or there's chaos. I protect what's mine using whatever means necessary. And I'm yours now. Your possession? You wear my ring. You share my name. You kissed me like the world was ending. His hand pressed against the wall beside my head. So yes, Elena, you're mine. And that means I will burn down anyone who tries to hurt you. The possessiveness should have terrified me. Instead, it sent heat spiraling through my veins. A primal reaction I couldn't rationalize away. What if I can't live with what you do? What if watching you become this person breaks me? Something vulnerable flickered in his eyes. Then you leave. Just like I promised. And the funding? The kids? Still protected. Still funded. He cupped my face with surprising gentleness. I meant what I said, Elena. Your choice has to be free, or it's not a choice at all. I stared at him. This complicated man who was both monster and protector, who killed without hesitation but touched me like I was something precious. I hate this, I whispered. I hate that I'm falling for someone who terrifies me. I hate that part of me understands why you do what you do. I hate that I'm changing, becoming someone who can accept this. Then don't accept it. Walk away while you still can. Is that what you want? What I want doesn't matter. Tell me anyway. His forehead pressed against mine, his voice rough with emotion. I want you to stay. I want to wake up and find you in my kitchen, stealing my coffee. I want to argue with you about books and politics, and whether your chess programs need expansion into Queens. I want. He stopped, jaw clenched. I want things I have no right to want. Like what? Like a real marriage, real vows, a life that's not built on contracts and exit clauses. My breath caught. Dante. But wanting it doesn't make it possible. He pulled back, and the walls slammed back into place. We leave for the city tonight. The penthouse is secure. Life goes back to normal. Normal. The word felt meaningless now. Nothing about this is normal. He walked away without responding, leaving me alone with the weight of choices I'd already made, and the terrible knowledge that there was no going back to who I'd been. We returned to Manhattan after dark, the city glittering with oblivious beauty. The penthouse felt different now, not a gilded cage but a fortress. Every window a potential weakness, every shadow a threat. I retreated to my room, needing space to think, to breathe, to figure out what the hell I was doing with my life, but sleep wouldn't come. At 2 a.m., I gave up and wandered to the kitchen for tea. I found Dante at the piano, playing something haunting and melancholic. His fingers moved across the keys with the same precision he applied to everything, controlled, deliberate, revealing nothing. "Can't sleep?" he asked without stopping. "Too much adrenaline." I leaned against the doorframe, watching him. "That's beautiful. What is it?" "Chopin. Nocturne in E-flat major. My mother used to play it." "I didn't know you were close with your mother." His hands stilled on the keys. "I'm not, but I remember her playing, before everything got complicated, before she learned what her husband really was, what her son would become. Does she hate you? She loves me? Which is worse?" He stood, crossed to the bar, poured scotch with hands that trembled almost imperceptibly. "Love in my family is a curse, Elena. Everyone I've ever loved has paid the price. Is that why you've kept me at arm's length? Even after the kiss? Especially after the kiss." He downed the scotch in one swallow. "Because that made you real. Not a contract, not a performance. Real. And real things in my life get destroyed." I crossed the room, took the empty glass from his hand, set it aside. "I'm not afraid of your world anymore, Dante. I'm afraid of the distance you're trying to force between us when we both know it's too late. It's not too late. You can still—" I kissed him, cutting off the protest. This kiss was different from the first, not desperate or adrenaline-fueled, but deliberate. A choice made with eyes wide open, fully aware of the consequences. When we broke apart, his control had fractured. I could see the man beneath the armor, the one who wanted connection as much as he feared it. "Stay with me tonight," he said, voice rough. "Not in separate rooms playing pretend. Stay with me. Dante, if we do this, if we cross that line, I know, everything changes." His hand threaded through my hair. "But maybe everything needs to change." I should have walked away, should have maintained the boundaries we'd carefully constructed, kept our arrangement professional and clean. Instead, I took his hand and let him lead me to his bedroom. We crossed the threshold together, and the last vestiges of pretense burned away. I woke wrapped in Egyptian cotton sheets in Dante's arms, dawn painting the room in soft gold. For a moment, I let myself enjoy it, the warmth of his body against mine, the steady rhythm of his breathing, the sense of belonging somewhere I absolutely shouldn't. Then my phone buzzed on the nightstand. A message from an unknown number. Just 2 words that made my blood turn to ice. "We know." Beneath it, a photo. Me and Dante entering the safe house 4 nights ago. Another message. The contract. Everything. "How long until the press knows you're a fraud?" I sat up, clutching the sheets, heart hammering. Dante stirred beside me, instantly alert. "What's wrong?" I handed him the phone, watched his face harden as he read the messages. "Carmela," he said flatly. "Or someone close enough to access our files. What do we do?" He was already out of bed, pulling on pants, his mind clearly racing through scenarios and solutions. "We get ahead of it. If the contract goes public, we control the narrative. How?" He turned, and the determination in his eyes was absolute. "We make it real. No contract, no exit clause, no performance. We get married immediately, not a year from now, not when the charade is over. Now, before anyone can expose us as frauds. That's insane. That's survival." He crossed back to the bed, took my hands. "Elena, someone is trying to destroy us both. The only way to protect everything we've built is to make the lie truth." "But the contract said—" "Fuck the contract. I'm asking you to marry me for real. Not for money, not for appearance. Because somewhere in this mess, I fell in love with you, and I'm done pretending otherwise. The words hung in the air, impossible and perfect, and absolutely terrifying. You love me, I said, testing the words. Desperately. Inconveniently. Against all logic and self-preservation. This is the worst idea either of us has ever had. Probably. I looked at him, this dangerous, complicated, impossible man who'd somehow become my entire world in less than 2 months. Then let's do it, I said. Let's burn it all down and build something real from the ashes. His smile could have powered the city. Tomorrow. We get married tomorrow. Tomorrow. He kissed me like a promise and a threat, and I kissed him back like a woman who'd finally stopped running from the inevitable. Outside, someone was trying to destroy us. Inside, we were building something worth fighting for. And in 24 hours, Elena Reeves would become Elena Morelli. For real. Forever. God help us both. We married at dawn in a private chapel that probably hadn't seen a genuine ceremony in decades. No guests, no media, no elaborate celebration, just Dante and me, Vincent and Margaret as witnesses, and a judge who owed the Morelli family enough favors to perform the ceremony at 6 a.m. without asking questions. I wore a simple ivory dress Margaret had somehow procured, overnight, elegant, understated, nothing like the elaborate gown I'd been planning for our fake wedding. My hands shook as I held the bouquet of white roses, and I couldn't tell if it was fear or anticipation making my heart race. Dante stood at the altar in a black suit, looking devastating and dangerous and somehow vulnerable all at once. When our eyes met, everything else faded. The chapel, the witnesses, the threats waiting beyond these walls. We don't have to do this, he said quietly as I joined him. If you're having second thoughts. I'm terrified, I admitted, but I'm also sure. Are you? I've never been more certain of anything in my life. The ceremony was brief, stripped of pretense. We spoke traditional vows with newfound meaning to have and to hold, for better or worse, in sickness and health. When the judge pronounced us married, Dante's kiss was gentle, reverent, nothing like the desperate passion of the night before. Mrs. Morelli, he murmured against my lips. That's going to take some getting used to. We have time. But his eyes said otherwise. We both knew time was a luxury we might not have. Vincent stepped forward, handed Dante an envelope. It arrived this morning. I'm sorry, boss. Dante's jaw tightened as he scanned the contents. I watched color drain from his face, saw his hands clench into fists. What is it? The contract went public 20 minutes ago. His voice was flat, controlled. Every major news outlet has it. The terms, the timeline, everything. My stomach dropped. How bad? See for yourself. He handed me his phone. The headlines were brutal. Morelli marriage exposed as $1 million scam. Chess teacher admits fake engagement for $5 million. New York's power couple, built on lies. But it was the comments that made me feel sick. Thousands of people calling me a gold digger, a con artist, a whore. My mother's number appeared in my missed calls 17 times. The Chess Foundation's website had crashed, probably from the flood of angry donors demanding refunds. This is over, I said numbly. Everything we built is exactly where it needs to be. Dante took the phone back, pulled me close. Elena, look at me. The contract doesn't matter anymore. We just got married. For real. That changes the entire narrative. How? Everyone knows it was fake. Was. Past tense. His hands framed my face. We hold a press conference this afternoon. We tell them the truth, that what started as a business arrangement became real. That we fell in love despite ourselves. That we got married this morning because we couldn't wait any longer. They'll never believe it. They will. Because it's true. He pressed his forehead to mine. This is our origin story, Elena. The chaos, the contract, the scandal. It all becomes part of how we found each other. A love story for the cynical age. I wanted to believe him, but the damage felt too extensive, the betrayal too public. What about my program? The kids? Already handled. I've had my lawyers issue statements confirming the foundation is fully funded, regardless of our marriage status, that every commitment will be honored. The kids are protected. And my reputation? We rebuild it, together. His thumb traced my cheekbone. You're a Morelli now. That means you have the full weight of my family, my resources, my power behind you. Anyone who comes for you comes for me. Vincent cleared his throat. Boss, We need to move. The press conference is in 6 hours, and we need to prepare. The rest of the morning was a blur of preparation. Media consultants coached us on talking points. Lawyers prepped responses to likely questions. Stylists ensured we looked like a couple in love rather than criminals in damage control. Through it all, Dante never left my side. His hand found mine during breaks. His eyes checked on me constantly, his presence a steady anchor in the chaos. "Nervous?" he asked as we waited backstage at the WURG press conference venue. "Beyond words. You?" "Only about whether I can adequately express how much you mean to me without sounding like a complete fool." I laughed despite everything. The great Dante Morelli. Afraid of public speaking? Not afraid of speaking. Afraid of not doing justice to what I feel. His hand cupped my jaw. "Elena, regardless of what happens out there, I need you to know. Marrying you this morning was the best decision I've ever made. No contract, no performance, just truth. I love you," I said, the words easier than I'd expected. I don't know when it happened or how, but I do. Completely. Impossibly. Not impossibly. His smile was soft. Inevitably, like the ending of a perfectly played chess game, we could see it coming from moves away, but couldn't stop it even if we wanted to. That's the most romantic thing anyone's ever said to me. Then I'm doing better than I thought. Vincent appeared in the doorway. 2 minutes. Dante laced his fingers through mine, ready to face the world. "As long as you're beside me." We walked out together to a room packed with journalists, cameras, flashing lights. The noise was overwhelming, shouted questions, clicking shutters, the hum of judgment and speculation. Dante stepped to the microphone, and the room fell silent. When he spoke, his voice carried absolute authority. 6 weeks ago, I made Elena Reeves a business proposition. I asked her to marry me as part of an arrangement that would benefit us both. The contract that was leaked this morning is real. I won't insult your intelligence by denying it. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. I felt every eye in the room dissecting me, judging, condemning. "But contracts," Dante continued, his hand finding mine again, "are about terms and conditions, clauses, and exit strategies. What they can't account for is the human element, the unpredictability of actually getting to know someone, of discovering they're brilliant, infuriating, compassionate, and far stronger than you ever imagined." He turned to me, and the raw emotion in his eyes made my breath catch. Elena was supposed to be a convenient solution to a family problem. Instead, she became the most important person in my life. What started as strategy became real somewhere between chess games and midnight conversations, between her calling out my arrogance and me discovering what actual partnership feels like. "Mr. Morelli," a reporter shouted, "are you saying you actually fell in love with her?" "I'm saying I'm standing here as a man who got far more than he bargained for." His smile was genuine, transformative. "This morning, Elena and I got married. Not because the contract required it, not for appearance or advantage. We married because somewhere in the chaos of the past 6 weeks, we became partners in the truest sense, and I'm not interested in pretending otherwise." He pulled me forward, and suddenly I was at the microphone, dozens of cameras, trained on my face. "I know what everyone thinks," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "That I'm a con artist, a gold digger, someone who sold herself for money. And yes, I accepted Dante's original proposal for financial reasons. My chess program needed funding, and he offered resources I could never access otherwise." I took a breath, found Dante's eyes, but I stayed because of who he is when the cameras are off, because he listens to my students' dreams like they matter, because he plays Chopin at 2 a.m. when he can't sleep, because he's taught me that strength and vulnerability aren't opposites, they're complements. I married him this morning because I love him, not his money, not his power. Just him. The questions came rapid fire after that, but Dante handled them with practiced ease. Yes, the marriage was legal. Yes, the foundation funding was secure. Yes, we understood the public's skepticism, but we were committed to proving ourselves over time. When it was finally over, we escaped to the car, both emotionally drained. "That went better than expected," Vincent said from the driver's seat. "The verdict's still out," Dante replied, but his arm around my shoulders was relaxed, confident. My phone buzzed Mrs. Castellano, the first of what would probably be hundreds of messages. I opened it, bracing for judgment. "That was the most romantic thing I've ever seen. Congratulations, dear. You deserve every happiness." I showed Dante, and his laugh was pure relief. Maybe, he said, pulling me close. We actually pulled this off. The marriage or the press conference? Both. All of it. Our impossible, chaotic, completely real love story. I kissed him there in the back seat, not caring that Vincent could see, not caring about anything except this moment, the two of us against the world, married and in love, and finally free to be genuine. Take us home, Dante told Vincent. Home. The word resonated differently now. Not his penthouse or my old studio, but wherever we were together. We'd started with a chess game and a contract. We'd survived attacks and scandals and family politics. And somehow, impossibly, we'd found something real in the wreckage. 6 months later, I stood in the renovated Brooklyn Youth Chess Foundation, building 4 floors of classrooms, tournament space, and resources that had seemed impossible a year ago. Sunlight streamed through windows that actually opened, illuminating chessboards where 30 kids practiced their tactics. Mrs. Morelli. Sophia ran up, her face glowing with excitement. I won the regional championship. I'm going to nationals. Sophia, that's incredible. I hugged her tight, blinking back tears. I knew you could do it. I couldn't have done it without you. Without all this. She gestured around the space. My mom says you're a miracle worker. Not a miracle worker, just a woman who'd made a deal with the devil and discovered he had a heart after all. You did. The work, sweetheart. You earned this. After Sophia returned to her game, I found Margaret in the administrative office, reviewing scholarship applications. 300 new applications this month, she reported. The publicity from your marriage actually helped people want to support the foundation that captured Dante Morelli's heart. Funny how scandal can become fairy tale with the right spin. It's not spin if it's true, dear. Margaret smiled knowingly. I've worked for the Morelli family for 20 years. I've never seen Dante like this, happy, balanced, human. You changed him. He changed me too. That's how the best marriages work. My phone buzzed Dante, asking if I was ready for tonight. We had dinner with his family, a monthly tradition that had become surprisingly enjoyable once Carmela stopped testing me at every turn. She'd actually become an ally, fiercely protective of our relationship now that she believed it was genuine. I arrived home, our home, the penthouse that no longer felt like a cage, to find Dante in the kitchen attempting to cook. Smoke billowed from a pan while he cursed in Italian. Need help? I asked, laughing. I'm perfectly capable of making dinner for my wife. The evidence suggests otherwise. He abandoned the disaster, pulled me into his arms. Fine, you're right. I'm a terrible cook, but I make an excellent husband in other ways. Debatable. But I was smiling, melting into his embrace like I always did. Debatable? He nipped at my neck. I seem to remember you disagreeing quite vocally this morning. Heat flooded my cheeks. 6 months of marriage, and he still made me blush. We're going to be late to your parents' house. Let them wait. His hand slid beneath my shirt. I have better plans for tonight. Dante. The doorbell interrupted, followed by Vincent's voice. Boss, we have a problem. The playfulness vanished from Dante's face. What kind of problem? The kind that requires your immediate attention. We found Vincent in the foyer with 3 men I didn't recognize, older, weathered, carrying themselves with the kind of authority that suggested they weren't here for a social call. Mr. Morelli, the lead man said. I'm Detective Reeves, NYPD. We need to ask you some questions about the Volkov incident 6 months ago. My stomach dropped. The attack that had driven us to the safe house. The night everything had changed between us. I'd assumed it was handled, buried, forgotten. I'm happy to answer questions, Dante said smoothly. But I'll need my lawyer present. That's your right. But I should inform you. We have testimony placing you at the scene where 3 members of the Volkov family were killed. The word hung in the air like a blade. Killed. Not handled or dealt with, killed. And Dante was being directly implicated. This conversation is over until my attorney arrives, Dante said flatly. Vincent, call Patterson. Elena, go wait in the bedroom. No. I stepped forward. Whatever this is, we handle it together. Detective Reeves studied me with shrewd eyes. Mrs. Morelli, you might want to reconsider. The testimony we have implicates your husband in multiple homicides. You don't want to be present for this discussion. With respect, Detective, I know exactly who my husband is and what he's capable of. And I'm not going anywhere. Something flickered in Dante's expression. Fear. Maybe pride. His hand found mine, squeezed tight. For the next 3 hours, we sat in the study while lawyers argued and detectives pushed, and Dante maintained a wall of controlled denial. I watched him navigate the interrogation with the same strategic brilliance he applied to everything, giving nothing away, conceding no ground, protecting not just himself but everyone connected to him. When they finally left, warrants unissued but threats hanging heavy, Dante collapsed onto the couch like his strings had been cut. "They have nothing concrete," his lawyer, Patterson, assured him. "The testimony is circumstantial, and we can create reasonable doubt. But Dante, you need to be careful. They're building a case." After Patterson left, silence filled the penthouse like poison gas. "Say something?" Dante finally said, not looking at me. "Did you kill them? The Volkovs? If I say yes, will you leave?" I asked a question. "Answer it." He met my eyes then, and I saw the truth written in every line of his face. "Yes, I killed 2 of them. My men killed the 3rd. They'd threatened you, Elena. They'd put your life in danger. So yes, I eliminated the threat. I should have been horrified, should have run, should have called the detective back and told him everything. Instead, I crossed to the couch, sat beside my husband, and took his hand. Okay. Okay? He stared at me like I'd lost my mind. "That's all you have to say?" "What do you want me to say? That I'm shocked? I knew who you were when I married you. That I'm scared? I'm terrified. But not of you, of losing you, of watching your world destroy you, of not being strong enough to stand beside you through whatever comes next. Elena, I'm not naive anymore, Dante. I understand the cost of this life, the impossible choices, the blood that stains everything no matter how hard you scrub. But I also understand that you're mine, and I'm yours, and that means we face the consequences together." He pulled me into his arms, held me so tight I could barely breathe. "I don't deserve you. Probably not. But you're stuck with me anyway, for better or worse, in sickness and health, till death do us part." His voice broke on the last word. We held each other while the city glittered beyond the windows, while threats gathered in shadows, while the life we'd built teetered on the edge of collapse. But we held each other, and that, I was learning, was what mattered most. 3 months later, the charges were dropped due to insufficient evidence. Whatever strings Dante pulled, whatever deals were made in rooms I'd never see, the threat dissipated like smoke. Life returned to something resembling normal fundraisers and family dinners, chess tournaments, and quiet nights at home. The scandal of our contract had faded into history, replaced by newer gossip about other people's drama. I'd won the nationals, secured a full scholarship to a elite academy. Marcus got his glasses and discovered he was brilliant at tactics. The foundation expanded to Queens, just like I'd dreamed. And every night, I came home to a man who'd once proposed as a business transaction and had somehow become my entire world. "Rematch?" Dante asked one evening, setting up the chessboard between us. "You never learn, do you? I'm an optimist. Maybe this time I'll win." We played, and he lost in 15 moves instead of 12 progress of sorts. When I called checkmate, he didn't look frustrated, just smiled, that devastating smile that still made my heart race. "Best 3 out of 5? You're impossible. You married me anyway. Worst decision of my life." "Liar." He pulled me onto his lap, the chess pieces scattering. "Marrying me was the best decision you ever made." "Second best," I corrected, kissing him. "The best was agreeing to play chess with you in the first place." "Fair point." That's when I knew. Knew what? That you were going to destroy me in the most beautiful way possible. And he was right. I had destroyed him, destroyed his carefully constructed walls, his belief that love was weakness, his certainty that he'd always be alone. Just like he'd destroyed me, destroyed my small, safe life, my fear of taking risks, my conviction that people like him existed in a different world than people like me. We'd destroyed each other and built something new from the wreckage. Something messy and complicated and sometimes terrifying. Something real. Something that started with a chess game and a contract, and became a love story neither of us saw coming. "Dante?" I said against his lips. Thank you for losing to me that night." His laugh was warm, genuine, completely unguarded. "Thank you for not letting me win." Outside, the city pulsed with millions of lives and stories. Inside, we were just 2 people who'd found each other through chaos and scandal and impossible odds. The chessboard sat forgotten beside us, the pieces scattered like the remnants of our old lives. But we didn't need the game anymore. We'd already won.